Who'da thunk it is the 18th of June. Shakira, Shakira, I'm back from all the madness of Spain and the 2-day wedding in Derry. Oh, that was a blowout, I can tell you. Although I did remain sober throughout the wedding. A new thing I have, I won't drink when there's a big gathering. A, because my wife watches me like a hawk. And B, in case I make an idiot of myself. And it is quite interesting, after a while, when you are sober, just to watch everybody around you dissolve. It's great fun. On tonight's show, I've a little list here, because I got so much on for you. Light Shite. What's that all about? Hang around and find out. Ireland's racists. Oh yes, they do exist. I shall elaborate. Fairy forts and fairy trees. Leave them alone. Oh, we'll be talking about that as well. I know the excitement. And of course, the sad story and the relevance to me of the late Dr. Michael Mosley. And finally, the Aircoach. Oh yes, it's a bus that brings you to the airport. I'm a believer. That's pretty much what I have for you on tonight's show on This Much Is True. Well then, so where do I start? I'm at a certain age now where I get triggered, as the kids say. So I only have to watch television or something and see one or two politicians that I really don't see eye to eye with. In fact, I kind of despise them, and it's never used to happen to me. But as I get older, I'm kind of interested in what's going to be left behind. You know, and I see these people running the place into the ground. So I get very, very upset. But recently I've decided to I'll wean myself off the TikTok mentality or the looking at the news and shouting at the television thing. That's what I have a habit of doing. So I turn, ladies and gentlemen, and you know who you are, especially the regular crew. Although I have to say the statistics are growing. We had nearly 300 hits last time around. A couple of new people showed their noses as well. Welcome on board, one and all. Anyway, as I said, I try and lighten the mood. So I turn to what I term light shite. And light shite, in my particular case, is I like to revisit a programme that was broadcast in the early 2000s. Now, if you ever saw Most Haunted, which I loved, with the late, hey, where's me dad outside playing fussy with the damn bussy? Derek Lachora. Loved him. But this is a different guy, all right? So this bloke here, all right? Colin Fry and the Sixth Sense. Looks like he's a bit of a Hitler youth there, doesn't he? But he's actually pointing at the audience going, did anybody here have a red dog? But anyway, this rat-featured person, Colin Fry, unfortunately, he's the late Colin Fry, because he's not with us anymore. He didn't see that coming, did he? Oh, shouldn't. That's appalling. But essentially, I just sit back and I let this banality and bullshit wash all over me. And it's light. And it keeps things simple as well, as in life and death. Let's face it. Both sides of the veil is all we will ever experience. So, I don't know when my time is up. If it is soon, it's been nice knowing you. I certainly hope I can last a bit longer. You know, I'm somewhat compromised. But I wish you all long, golden lives as well. The light shite, though, is kind of paranormal, the Sixth Sense. And he goes around the audience, and you can tell he's done his homework. He's a chancer. What can I say? The sixth. Us Irish aren't too good on our THs. Sense. I don't even know who broadcasts it, but I just line up a load of them. So I've got about 30 taped, and when I feel I'm getting triggered, I go, just get me the light shite, get me the hell out of Dodge, because I really hate what is going on at the moment. Which brings me to a kind of, I want to keep the mood up if I can tonight, but today it wasn't particularly bright here in Ireland, in old Erin, and I felt it was one of those days, you know, a netherworld day. It didn't quite take off. And speaking of senses and extrasensory, I just feel And I don't really want to, I just feel something's going to happen. Something is going down. And it's going to land upon us just as much as the scamdemic. Which, face it, I mean, if you look at Fauci's recent testimony, quite a lot of it came out of the agile mind of his, including things like social distancing and mask wearing. Oh, I kind of made them up. So I just feel, please, I want to be wrong. But I just feel something's going down. Let's talk about something a lot of people don't want to talk about. Ireland's racists. First of all, let me explain. In my 61 years, Ireland has never was a racist country. We exported ours. Not that we exported them, they had to flee. So they went all over the world. Sometimes this is turned against us when it comes to recent migration issues. That is totally wrong. When we went abroad out of hunger. And when we arrived on shores, we were despised. We weren't handed free stuff. Okay? We didn't get free accommodation. All that stuff. And I'm saying, don't have a problem where it's legitimate. But where there's frickin' chancers involved or fake UGs, yes, I do have a serious problem. You'd want to be bloody stupid if you didn't. And there's so many people that are afraid that they would be seen by others as not being nice. Let me tell you, sentimentality ain't where it's at. Not with me, and not with anybody who's got any common sense. If you have a house, it's your country. And you try and keep the house in good nick. All right? You watch who the guests are in the house. You know? Don't have a problem, except there is a small, like anywhere else, there's a small coterie of racists in this country. And you know what? In the last 2 weeks, if we had a litmus test, I know it would have showed up the racists, who are very few and far between. Let me explain. So we had a situation here. It went on a week or two. There was a court case. Now, a lot of it was because victims were involved. It was sub judice, so names couldn't really be named. Now, it's not the first time names haven't been named when certain shocking events happen in Irish society, especially recently. So there was a little build-up as who. Anyway, here's the background. There was a taxi driver, and what he was doing was he was taking advantage of inebriated young women who were unfortunate enough to get into his taxi. The bottom line is he was accused and found guilty of rape. Now, there was a lag between the verdict, and I can guarantee you there was an element that were expecting a foreigner. Okay, they were waiting for the name so that they could go ballistic and take the higher moral ground. This is a particular animal, and as I said, it's not unique to Ireland. And let me profile it for you. Yes, there are young ones that have been influenced by the older ones who we're going to talk about. So, there was a tension. And I would say a couple, if not more, of these guys were going around for the last 2 weeks saying to friends and close members of family, "I betcha that's a foreigner. I bleeding betcha." All right. But when the verdict was given of guilty, it was announced it was a local taxi driver from Dublin, from an area in Dublin. And he was a guy with an Irish name. Well, TikTok City went very quiet. You could feel the tumbleweed blowing across. And I guarantee you that would have been a flaming Moses bush about to explode like the opening scene, if you're old enough to remember the map in Bonanza, when the fucking flames used to fly out of that map. That's what was happening. There was a powder keg there. Now let me again profile for you largely who I believe these people would be. They tend to be middle-aged to older, wishy-washy, non-blokes, fellas, owl fellas, right? And when they explode, what they don't realise, but if you actually went into the psychology of it, is they are more angry with their own lack of achievement in life than they are with Ahmed, Abdul, or Winston Kadogo, or whoever it may be. All right? That's what it's really about. It's about a frustration. Now, by the way, in the round, if you looked at their lives, they probably have succeeded. They've raised a family. Maybe they've kept their marriage together. But a hell of a lot of them are underachievers. They're people who begrudge, and they're people who judge. And I'm telling you, that's your racists in Ireland. It's those owl fellas that were waiting for the verdict to be given and that they would be vindicated that it was a foreigner. These are the fuckers that you saw in Belfast during the Troubles, who were well behind the lines of rioters, but would be shouting out, "Go on, give it to them, give it to the Brits, go on!" But they'd be well out of range, okay? They're also the first guys that if a shot was fired, they'd be the first under the bed. They are few and far between. They exist worldwide, and they are your Irish racists, or your far right, as the government, who likes to human fly tip on people here in Ireland, like to put it, the far right. And when I say human fly tipping, it's the equivalent of what they're doing at the moment, because it's unfair to both parties. Those who are being bussed in at night, why else would you do it? Isn't that's how a fly tipper operates? Yeah? And then imposed, thrown, dumped, if you like, on an unconsulted community of locals. What the fuck? Where did that fridge come from? Where did that frickin' bus full of 200 young fellas? I won't give it the military age thing. That's done to death. But it is very suspicious. And it's terribly inconsiderate. You cannot. I think I heard Varadkar at one point say you can't make up your mind as to who's. Yeah, well, you know what? Let's just bus a few out to your neck of the woods, right? People who you haven't got a clue who they are. And I'm talking again, do I have to qualify it, about the unvetted. Those that, as Michael O'Leary from Ryanair recently said, destroy their documents by flushing them down the toilet in the airport. And there's bloody plenty of them. But as regards racists in Ireland, it never was, Imelda May. You can't be Irish and racist. It never was a racist country. It's a country that suffered. It's a proud country. And I'm proud to be Irish. And yes, I acknowledge there are a few frickin' hotheads, but they're few and far between. They're owl fellas who largely haven't achieved much in life. Enough, says that. Let's turn to the fairy folk and bring things down a bit. Yeah, okay. If you want to comment on this, of course, comments below. If you want to get into more detail, this much is true at protonmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I really would. So, back in the 80s, here we go again. When I was a sales rep, I was located at one point to help a sales guy who was out in the Midlands. And we were driving along in the country together. And this is relevant to the last story as well. So hang in there. And we'll call him John. And I looked out at the car window and I said, "Hey, John, look at that thing. It's in the middle of nowhere." And it was like this little, as they'd say in the JFK movies, a grassy knoll, but a little tree on top of it. And he says, "Oh, sure, that's a fairy fort. Don't ever mess with those things." I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, don't fuck with the fairy folk. Never mess with a fairy tree. Or do you see the circular ones?" And yeah, sure enough, there was kind of further down the road, a mile or two, we came across these circular ones. They're as bad. Don't pull the stones out of the wall of the fairy fort, or the little people will come for you. And I said, "Oh, piss off, John." He said to me, "No, I'm serious." Now, this guy, by the way, was subsequently called to the bar. And I'm not talking about alcohol. I mean, he was smart. So he was illegal. So he ended up in the forecourts, I think, in Dublin. A learned man, my lud. And he related to me several instances of people who had paid the price for destroying or interfering with these very sacred places. You might laugh about it, but recently in Clonmel, in County Tipperary in Ireland, which you don't hear reported on the news, you have to go to social media, and I'm trying less and less to do that because life is too short. But the locals whip out their iPhones and they film what's going on, which is essentially a kind of a plantation, a fly tipping. Here we go again. Yes, they're building supposedly for Ukrainian refugees, but I don't think so, from what I'm hearing. They're building one of these, the little kind of mobile huts or the Nissan hut type thing. There is a name for them. I've forgotten what it is. And because it's so contentious, no local contractor will touch it. So they have this contractor stroke security firm over from England to do the dirty work, which included uprooting, I think, or messing with, or interfering, or building around, whatever, one of these sacred sites, or two of these sacred sites. They did it, they went ahead, despite the best of advice, and two of them, one is now dead. Mysteriously were injured. As I said, one has subsequently passed. Don't know what it was. Probably some kind of industrial accident. But it was bad luck, folks. Bad luck. You just don't fuck with the Faeries. Unless you're certain. Well, I won't. Again, let's keep it light. Well, it's not light. Actually, this is quite heavy. Well, in both senses of the word. Because if you're heavy, you want to lose weight. And I'm heavy. Not the worst I've been, but I'm heavy enough. So, found myself on holidays in Madrid. This had been hanging around for some time. What's that, says you? This, says I. And guess who it's by? The late, and now he is, Dr. Michael Mosley. As I was reading it, I listened to the news. What a sweet man. There he is. God rest him. And he was found lying on a hill in Greece. Maybe you should have tried butter. Although you can't put butter. Oh, you can in keto. But that's not funny. That's just a pun. Sorry about that. It's in bad taste. A bit like grease and butter. Grease is anyway, you know where I'm going. So I'm losing a lot in translation. But it was the irony of reading the book, which I have to say is quite an easy read. But knowing in the back of my frickin' mind at the time that he was missing. So, condolences to his beautiful wife, Claire, who is also a doctor, and family. And that was a bit silly talking about grease and butter. That was stupid. But it's kind of relevant if you're into keto. So I will, in his memory, will I try keto and let you know how I get on? I was starting today, but it was a bit of a screw up. Didn't quite happen. I ended up eating wraps, these white bread, after starving myself for the morning. And I ran into business bullshit as well today. Stuff that was really kind of beyond my control, Miss Moneypenny. But I will say that it's not the problem that's the problem. It's how you handle the problem that's the problem. Remember, I told you that. So I threw myself at this problem and I just said, look, I'll chip away at it. Now, finally, the Aircoach. What's that, says you, when you're at home eating crisps? Well, the Aircoach is like a long single-decker bus, blue in colour, with a picture of an orange radar on it. And I don't know about your neck of the woods, but they operate in Dublin. And my wife has been a convert of the Aircoach for a long time, and always tried to get me on board, pardon the pun. And I'd say to her, love, get in the frickin' car, let's drive up the highway, so then when we get off the plane on our way back, we just get into our car and we go home again. But she'd say to me, hey, listen, just get on the bus. Forget about us. Put the blame on me if I don't see a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. The old ones are the best. Ooh. So we did it this time around. I said, okay. And our daughter joined us later on, coming back from Spain. But anyway, we went over to the airport on the Aircoach. All as we had, it was within walking distance of here, so we went up to Donnybrook. It's not far from here. And we dragged out little cases. That was as much work as we had to do. Then all as you do is you get on board, straight to the terminal. No worrying about traffic. Will I make it? Will I not? Because they've got their own bus lanes. Do I have to worry about toll charges? It was a thing of beauty. It was a very streamlined travel experience. Now, thank you for joining me. I'd love to hear from you. I can see the stats are growing, and I'm a little bit hopeful. It might have been a lucky break we got, but it's good to have you aboard, as I said. And this much is true at protonmail.com or comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Any kind of bots or anything like that, you can do what you want, but they just get wiped. I don't see them half the time. Most of the time, I have it filtered. But anyway, for those who would like to contribute something of any meaning, some feedback or whatever, I would love to hear from you. I'm going to leave you with this. Do you remember back in the 70s? A lot of you won't, but she's still around. There was a lady and she came to fame on Opportunity Knocks. Her name was Pam Ayres. She seems like a nice bloke when you have a look at her, but she's a fine person. And her thing was poetry. Funny poetry. Now, in view of what I discussed with you earlier on about being triggered and shouting at the television when you get to a certain age and kind of knowing it all, I'm going to leave you with this. From Pam Ayres. They should have asked my husband. Take care, because I care.
You know, this world is complicated and imperfect and oppressed. And it's not hard to feel timid, apprehensive, and depressed. It seems that all around us, tides of questions ebb and flow, and people want solutions, but they don't know where to go. Opinions abound, but who is wrong and who is right? No, people need a prophet, a diffuser of the light, someone they can turn to as the crises rage and swirl. Someone with the remedy, the wisdom, the pearl. Well, they should have asked my husband. No, he'd have told them. Then and there, his thoughts on immigration, teenage mothers, Tony Blair, the future of the monarchy, house prices in the south, the wait for hip replacements, BSE, and foot and mouth. No, they should have asked my husband. He can sort out any mess. He can rejuvenate the railways. He can cure the NHS. So any little niggle, anything you want to know, just run it past my husband, wind him up, and let him go. See? Congestion on the motorways, free holidays for thugs. The damage to the ozone layer, refugees, drugs. These may defeat the brain of any politician bloke, but present it to my husband. He will solve it at a stroke. He'll clarify the situation. He will make it crystal clear. You'll feel the glazing of your eyeballs and the bending of your ear. Corruption at the top, he's an authority on that, and the mafia, Gaddafi, and Yasser Arafat. Upon these areas, he brings his intellect to shine in a great, compelling voice that's twice as loud as yours or mine. I often wonder what it must be like to be so strong, infallible, articulate, self-confident and wrong. When it comes to tolerance, he hasn't got a lot. Joyriders should be guillotined and muggers should be shot. The sound of his own voice becomes like music to his ears, and he hasn't got an inkling that he's boring us to tears. Oh, it's relentless. It's unstoppable. The hunting ban was grim. I fantasise at night about the hounds pursuing him. One thing, and one thing only, caused a smile his face to crack. At last, we beat Australia. And we got the Ashes back. Hooray! My friends don't call so often. They have busy lives, I know, but it's not every day you want to hear a windbag suck and blow. Encyclopedias, on them we never have to call. Why clutter up the bookshelf when my husband knows it all?